So an overview of air and weather sealing our window is, in theory, these, like I mentioned earlier, these Capital Glass windows are installed and there'll be about a 1/2 inch gap here all the way around. Once again, we're not sure what, if any, support requirements are going to be required for all or some of the windows in terms of having to put shims underneath to support the glass in the long term. But this is a 3-step process. In the first step, we install our backer rod, then we foam our remaining window gap, and then afterwards we'll tool in a bead of barrel bond. In this case, our cross section here allows us to take a closer look at what exactly is going on. For installing this backer rod, we've actually got a little jig here that has a stop lock that pushes that backer rod in just the right distance. It's just a couple sheets of plywood and a block screwed together, and we've got a 4-inch depth in our case, and that brings the backer rod right where we want to have it. You'll want to double check your depth on the job site, obviously, to make sure you're pretty close. So let's take a look at the close-up of our cutaway and see what's actually happening with the backer rod. So the backer rod, first off, this window is going to flex a little bit because I just have a little piece and I'm just trying to hold it down. Your window shouldn't flex. Your backer rod ideally will just be a tiny bit larger than the gap you've got to fill. So depending on what you have, you may have to use some 3/8, some 1/2 inch, some 5/8, some 3/4 backer rod. You definitely don't want the backer rod so fat that you start deflecting right here and create problems and stresses in either the window frame or this receiving channel, which it makes it hard to put the jamb extensions in later. So here I've got a 1/2 inch gap, slightly larger, and I can work my backer rod in just like that. I hit my stop, I push it all the way along so I'm even everywhere, I can feel it. Like I said, normally this shouldn't flex, but this is just a short window segment, so I don't have a really good way of holding it down. But what you see right here is the backer rod stops outboard of our outermost glass pane. This means our thermal boundary here is continuous. Our spray foam is going to insulate and carry all the way over and just a little bit past the outside edge of the glass. That way we're insulating where we need to insulate and we're not insulating where we don't want to insulate. And what I mean there is, on the other side of this backer rod, this should just be an open air space. That will allow any water that should ever get past here from anywhere and collect a drainage path out. If we fill this whole gap with foam, we're never going to have drainage. So the backer rod should stop, like I said, just on the outboard side here, probably this step. You can see my gauge block is cut such that backer rod goes right in there. And the next step, we just apply our minimal expanding window and door foam. This gun is and can are on their last legs, but you get the idea. That expanding foam should be applied all the way through this remaining 4-inch gap. We'll let that foam cure, then we'll trim it away and talk about the final step in air sealing the window jamb.